Welcome, everybody, back to a special episode of the Amateur Experts Podcast, where we are experts on absolutely nothing, but we are amateur experts. And we had a pretty good week 4, guys. Pretty decent week 4. Colts finally got a win. Titans lost to the Jets. That's a good week for me, regardless.
I predicted that.
Yep, DFS cashed. Smash and pass, which we will get into in just a moment, looking mighty nice as well. And look, we're just going to hop right into it. Week 4, we're at that point now to where I know it's a 17-game season, but usually I like to end up getting more of a feel for things right here at a fourth of the way through the season, which normally this is what it would be. So now you can kind of understand what the season, the direction it's heading. And I'm kind of losing my words here because I got this going on. I got the game going on. I got my fiance calling me. I got all kinds of shit going on. But regardless, let's get right into our week 4 review with our risers, our fallers, and our surprise teams after 4 weeks. We'll start with Drew since he's at the top. We'll go ahead and take it over.
I don't even want to talk about this, man, because you were talking about how great your week 4 was, and my week 4 was terrible. And a big reason because of that was of my rising team. And ironically, they also have the same team name as a team that is a favorite of mine in the St. Louis Cardinals, who their season is now over. The reason I'm wearing black is in remembrance of their 2021 season that the Dodgers so rudely ended in the wild card game last night. And now I got to talk about the Arizona Cardinals, who knocked off my favorite football team, the Los Angeles Rams. And they were kind of the obvious pick for the risers this week, but somebody had to do it because the reality is I think most people had them finishing maybe 3rd at best in the NFC West. A lot of people, myself and Landon both, I know just from whenever we went through the divisional breakdowns. I know, Jared, you weren't with us yet at that time, but whenever we talked about the NFC West, we both had the Cardinals finishing last in the division. Now, not a knock, against the Cardinals necessarily. It's just how good the NFC West is. And look, right now, they're the only undefeated team left in the NFL. They knocked off a team that a lot of people had crowned as the best team in the NFL after the Rams took down the Buccaneers the week prior. And they came in and made the Rams look very below average with how great that team looked. And I had been kind of skeptical of the Kyler Murray step forward. I know Kyler Murray can beat, average to below average teams. I knew that coming into the season. I didn't have any doubts about that. But, so whenever Kyler was able to handle Tennessee's defense and whenever Kyler was able to pick apart the Jaguars, it was like, okay, I would expect him to do that. I've seen him do that. But as a Rams fan, I've watched him fall apart against the Rams the last couple of years now in a bad way. And so seeing him come in to Los Angeles and play the way that he did, I'm fully bought in now that Kyler has taken that next step, that this team as a whole has taken that next step. They've got, some veteran additions that they've added on the defensive side of the ball. And AJ Green looks like he's not the AJ Green of old, but he definitely he can still contribute. And Kyler Murray is comfortable in this offense. He's not hyper targeting Hopkins anymore. He's comfortable spreading the ball around, making the smart play, using his legs. And with his ability to scramble and his ability to extend plays and play backyard football, how do you stop it? I was watching the game and there were so many plays I thought the Rams had him wrapped up in the backfield. And I was like, oh, this is about to go for a loss. And then they pick up a first down and it's just like,
I know there was one. I know he scrambled. It was like a 3rd and 17 or something.
Yeah, and he got the first down.
Yeah, and he got a first down. And yeah. The difference too with this, because spoiler alert, whenever we go to our surprise teams, Arizona is my surprise team because me and Drew both had them finishing last in the division. Obviously, they're not last in the division. The growth of Kyler Murray for me starts in the pocket, and I think that's where everything changed. He's making he's the fact that you have a quarterback that's, as Drew said, as dynamic as him with his legs. Probably him and Lamar Jackson are the 2 most dynamic quarterbacks.
Absolutely.
In the NFL. But what's really changed this year is his comfort from now being a scrambling quarterback who looks to try to bomb and throw the ball. Now he is a quarterback that he can pick you apart from the pocket, then use his legs whenever he needs to. He's spraying the ball around. I think Rondale Moore might have been one of the most underrated additions to any team in the draft. I mean, that looks like a fantastic pick. And if you listen to this podcast, you already know
we were big Rondale Moore fans.
We were smashing Rondale Moore. Yeah, we were smashing Rondale Moore. Whenever we were doing our NFL draft preview.
Max Williams back
in March and April. Whenever we were doing all that. Max Williams has been a really good surprise at the tight end position. The defense.
And I think that's another piece of evidence to him being more like comfortable in the pocket, because Max Williams isn't new to this team. Like he was on the team last year, but he just wasn't really involved. But I think with Kyler being more comfortable in the pocket and being able to wait for Max Williams to get open and things like that, I think that just speaks more to what you're saying in terms of him being comfortable in the pocket throwing the ball too.
I think Kyler Murray deserves most of the praise, but that defense has been a lot better than advertised. And like that
secondary specifically.
Oh my gosh. Like I never thought that defense was going to be anything what it has been over the last 4 weeks. And yeah, they made the Rams look bad. And I watched that game, and like the score really doesn't dictate how the game really was. It was a lot more clear that Arizona looked like a better team that week. I think they are definitely probably the biggest surprise in football. I still think the Rams win that division. I still think they're a more complete team, but
the good thing about these two teams,
I would take Arizona over Seattle right now.
Yeah,
clearly. Yeah, I think that's a pretty clear. But
the good thing about these two teams being in the division together is we get to see it again later this year. The Rams have to go to Arizona and try to return the favor. So, yeah, I mean, it's a long season. I mean, we were, just last week we were talking about the Rams being the best team in football, and because they just had just pounced the Buccaneers, and then the Cardinals turn around and do the same thing to the Rams. And look, we can only react on a week by week basis, but as of this week, just to kind of wrap up my riser with the Cardinals, they're only undefeated team in football. Kyler Murray's playing just as good as anybody in football. So I think
he's the likely MVP right now.
That's exactly my point is, they have earned the right to be called the best team in football at this point, and Kyler Murray should be the favorite to win MVP at this point. So, don't
get it twisted though. The Bills are knocking.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, that week one Buffalo Bills team was, I was a little worried about them after week one.
I know. Yeah.
They've looked just incredible.
Well,
they played some bad teams, but they've also
anytime you get
they're playing bad teams, but they're still shutting them out.
Like, exactly. Like regardless, it's a professional football team, and it is
and they're shutting them out.
So hard to hold any team to 0 points.
And they've done it twice in 4 weeks.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So that's Arizona Cardinals, at least as of week 4. That's my riser up to this point. So I'll let one of you guys touch on your riser for this week.
So my riser this week is we're going to the other West division, and we are going with the Los Angeles Chargers. Unfortunately, I won't get to celebrate with a lot of Chargers fans if you're listening to this, because those don't really exist. But yeah, I mean, look, that was a Raiders home game. That was a Raiders home game. But yeah, it's, for as many good things as we say about Kyler Murray, I think we could say just as many good things about Justin Herbert. I think he's right there in the mix, in that MVP race. He's far and away, I think right now, the best quarterback to come out of that draft last year. And that's even saying as great as Joe Burrow has looked this year as well. But Justin Herbert I think he's climbing into that elite, Mahomes, Brady, Kyler Murray, Lamar, like he's hitting that level of play at this point in his career. And the thing about the Chargers with me is whenever you have a quarterback that one is as dynamic as good as he is, and you surround him with a coach who understands just the minuscule aspects of a football team. I don't know if anybody listened to Brandon Staley talk about, why a running game helps a quarterback out this week, but he did it in a press conference a day or two ago. And it was, to me, one of the most beautiful explanations of any football that I've gotten out of a head coach probably ever. Because not only did it, line up philosophy to what I think, and it just kind of confirms like what I see with my eyes is like, well, here's this up and coming, like wonderful head coach. And he's seeing this, the same thing that I see. And so that's always fun. Anytime you can confirm that with yourself, that you're not a fucking idiot. But,
and if you listen to this podcast, you know that up and coming coach was also a pretty good bet for coach of the year, just saying,
Yeah. Well, that was predicted by somebody on the show as well. But yeah, it's, the defense, we've talked for years about how talented the defense is.
Everyone James is so good, man.
Yeah, that defense is so talented. But this is the difference to me is yes, Justin Herbert is great. And Justin Herbert had a great year last year as well. Now I think he's grown in some areas just because he's a little more comfortable now. He's not a rookie, but he was great last year. The main difference to me is the upgrade from Anthony Lynn to Brandon Staley, because everybody on this podcast knows you're watching that game last week and Anthony Lynn's the head coach. The Chargers blow that lead. The Chargers blow that game. There's no question. Anybody that's watched the Chargers of the past and watched Anthony Lynn, no, the Chargers blow that game. They don't find a way to win. That's where Brandon Staley makes that big of a difference, because the way he's able to just analyze the defense and situational football and the way the game is being played in the year 2021. He's right now definitely on the short list of coaches, coach of the year. As weird it is to say too, Cliff Kingsbury, is on that list.
We've been kind of rough on him.
Yeah, we've been rough on Cliff Kingsbury, but he's definitely making us look bad.
He's probably somewhere in the pitch black wearing fucking sunglasses, but
whatever. My pick's still alive.
Yeah, so we'll but yeah,
Matt LaFleur is still alive.
Yeah, LaFleur looks good, man. Which LaFleur, I don't know too. There's a video that came out today of the game last week about LaFleur and like the way he was, enacting, with his players and stuff, and it was really fun to watch. He looks like a really good guy as well. But yeah, it's, I think, as we say on this, and you've heard us say this multiple times on the show, coaching matters. And the coaching upgrade from Anthony Lynn to Brandon Staley might make this team the favorite in that division and might bring them into Super Bowl contenders. So,
Aaron Donald just got a sack. Sorry. Look, I'm struggling over here. All right. I had to.
I keep looking over there as well because
I had the choice of recording during the Cardinals playoff game last night as a St. Louis Cardinals fan, or the Rams Thursday night football regular season game tonight. And that was a no-brainer for me, to not record last night.
Even outside of the ending, that baseball game, it was a lot better than this football game's been.
Right. But yeah, no, I'm 100% on board with your riser pick. I had them sneaking in as the 7th seed in the AFC coming into the season, and I think I was even too low on them. Like, I think the Saints still have the ammo to come back and win this division, but I think there's an argument to be made that the Chargers are the best team in this division, and they could up winning the AFC West. Not that it's set in stone that that's going to happen, but they've already beat the Chiefs once this year, and they look good, man. And I mean, this team, the health and coaching have been the two things that have gotten in the way of the Chargers the last couple of years. They've got the coaching part fixed. That's clear. Like, this team, this game was set up for the Chargers to charger the game away. The Raiders were coming back. It was like, oh, here we go again. And then Brandon Staley was like, nah, this ain't the Chargers of old anymore.
Yeah.
So if they can stay healthy, man, I mean, yeah, sky's the limit for this team. So I like this pick a lot.
I think the
Yeah.
AFC West right now might be one of the best coach divisions in football too.
Yeah, even Gruden.
I think Gruden
really
has
good.
really not got the respect he deserves, especially offensively with Derek Carr. Derek Carr's had a great year. They had a bad game against the Chargers, but that Chargers defense it's good, and like that's going to be a tough division. Nobody wants to play the Raiders. Nobody wants to play the Chargers.
No.
Sure as hell, nobody wants to play the Chiefs. So that's a tough division, and it could easily come down to what is it, week?
Yeah.
18 now?
And even too, I mean, like, yeah, say what you
week.
will too. I mean, if Teddy Bridgewater's in, like, we all know, like, if Bridgewater's hurt, but like, I don't think nobody
makes
would
a
feel
world of
comfortable.
difference.
Yeah, nobody feels comfortable playing the Denver Broncos right now either.
No.
No,
the Chiefs are still in last place in AFC West right now.
That's crazy. Through 5, yeah, we're going into week 5. The Chiefs are in last place. So, Big Jared, you want to hit on your riser real quick?
Yeah, my riser is kind of also. I don't feel like it's a surprise. I had them winning the AFC North. I've got the Baltimore Ravens as a riser. They're coming off a big win against Denver, which I kind of could have. I really thought Denver would win that game. I was banking on their defense being, even though they hadn't played anybody, but I thought that would be the week they showed that everybody how elite that defense was. And Lamar Jackson, man, he made him look average. He really did. And Landon kind of called that too. And you guys both I was not high on Lamar last week at all. And he didn't have like a crazy Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I think he was better in real life than he was for fantasy.
Absolutely.
Which is something you don't say about Lamar very often.
Yeah,
right.
But,
he was hitting everything.
But even then, I mean, Hollywood Brown, I think, dropped 3 open touchdowns in that game.
Prior.
A week prior, he caught the one this week. He damn near dropped it in the end zone though. When
that was an incredible catch though.
It really was.
Yeah, that diving catch.
Yeah. Baltimore's look good, and their defense. I feel like it's not what it once was. It's definitely not a Baltimore Ravens niche defense that they always kind of have. But I think that they are good enough, and that division, I thought Pittsburgh would be a lot better than what they've been. They've been terrible, absolutely awful on offense. And the second that, Cleveland has not looked good. Baker has not looked good the last few weeks.
Baker, I don't know.
I think he's dealing with an injury too.
He is. I don't know if you guys saw that. He has a torn labrum in his shoulder.
Yeah. It's his non-throwing shoulder, but still, it still matters.
Yeah, that's actually the injury in the throwing shoulder that took Andrew Luck out for almost a couple years, because he set out, I believe it was 2015. He set out and towards the end, he played a few games. He set out, about the last 10 weeks, came back and played with the injury and made it worse. And then ended up missing the entire season in 2017. So yeah, there's Cooper Kupp.
Baker has some things going that Andrew Luck didn't have, as far as an elite
offensive line.
Yeah, they're a run first team for sure in Cleveland, and I'm not saying the Browns are going to be.
You want to know something hilarious about that though?
What?
So, if I'm not mistaken, Ryan Grigson is the senior football advisor for the Cleveland Browns.
No way.
Yes. So speaking of things that Andrew Luck.
Look, I'm not even a Colts fan, but I've heard you say enough bad things about him that I know that name.
Yeah,
he's a household name in Landon's house.
Yeah, he ruined. Not as bad. He's up there with Samson Satelli, and Jared can tell you. I know
Landon had a cake when that dude got cut. I'm a Colts fan. I barely even knew who the hell that guy was.
Yeah, I told Drew about us.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I got an ice cream cake whenever the Colts cut Samson Satelli, so I could. I mean, it was just nice to watch Andrew Luck not get absolutely murdered on every single play. Now we get to watch Carson Wentz get absolutely murdered on every single play. Which, I mean, that's more due to injury than it is the offensive line just being neglected. But yeah, regardless, this isn't the Colts thing.
Yeah. So yeah, just the finish up on the riser on Baltimore too. This is a team that lost every running back they possibly had on their roster before we kicked the season off. Mm-hmm. And Latavius Murray has looked great.
No, he's not.
Yeah, he has.
He's not looked great.
I think he's looked great. I think for what they did with bringing in these guys with old legs that have kind of been written awful. Latavius Murray wasn't written off. His whole situation in New Orleans was money. Like it wasn't like he was just like outcast. They would have loved to have kept him. But for what they've done with that running game, they still have a focus on the running game, but Lamar has turned into a better passer this season.
Yeah, that's
which
the
is something
difference.
that
It's like
that's elevated.
Latavius Murray's averaging 3.4 yards per carry.
Yeah, but he doesn't have to do too much because they are mixing it up, and they do have like their running game is legit because they have a running quarterback.
Because they have Lamar Jackson, not because Latavius Murray's looked great.
Well, that was going to be my point. Is like sometimes like a lot of teams in the past they want a quarterback manager. This team is essentially was looking for a running back manager. Like their running back one is already on the team. He's under center, and he's in shotgun. Like they just need somebody that they can, which was the kind of the problem with Tyson, is I feel like the coaching staff just couldn't trust him. He was clearly he had the most juice of anybody in that backfield, but they've got juice in the backfield already with Lamar. They needed a guy that they could hand the rock to and could pick up the tough yardage when they need it. And
yeah, to an extent, Tyson's average like 6.1 yards per carry isn't. I mean, that's very impressive.
That's what he's got juice, which is what I said. But in terms of just the.
I mean, yeah, if they want to plow a guy in for 2 yards,
it's not just that either. It's just the stuff that doesn't show up on the stat sheet.
Like the body blows.
I think Latavius is better in the categories that don't show up on the stat sheet, and like
pass protection, possibly he might be better at. I know Tyson struggled in pass protection, but yeah, I mean,
there's a reason why they brought these guys in.
10 for 28, 9 for 36, 7 for 28. I mean,
I think the big evolution of this offense is just that Lamar looks so much more similar to Kyler. Lamar looks so much more comfortable in the pocket. Like he throwing the football, he has made a clear step forward this year,
especially throwing the ball deep.
Yeah, Marquis Brown, like I am the biggest anti. I would not have Marquis Brown on any kind of fantasy team whatsoever because he's boom or bust. He's a legit number one wide receiver right now, and it's because of his quarterback.
I'm interested to see how this dynamic changes now that Rashad Bateman returns this week. Because I mean,
I think it's gonna take some time.
It probably will take a few weeks.
Yeah, I think it'll take a few weeks, but I think he immediately steps in. I think he's the most talented wide receiver on that team, but I think he steps in, and I think within just a few weeks, he's going to supplant Marquise Brown as the wide receiver one on that roster.
I mean, man. If you listen to any of our NFL draft podcasts, I have no problem with that take because I was in love with Rashad Bateman, but it's the injuries and stuff is unfortunate that it's kind of slowed down his learning curve for his rookie season. But I do think eventually he supplants Hollywood Brown. But
yeah, so this might be one of those scenarios, like just going into a little bit more.
It's just another good thing for Lamar, though. Like Lamar just has more weapons.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing.
No, it's great for Lamar, and it's one of those things that if you do have Hollywood Brown right now, and you're able to, I mean, this might be the peak of Hollywood Brown's value. Like, I don't know if he's ever going to get as high as he is right now. And I mean, if you're able to swing him for a running back one or a guy like, George Kittle,
package him with somebody else to get
like a
high-end receiver.
George Kittle, Darren Waller, if you're able to snag one of those guys in a Hollywood Brown deal, this might be it, because like I said, I think here in just 2 or 3 weeks, I mean, you might have another few weeks of him getting boomed, but eventually I think Rashad Bateman he's ridiculous. I'm excited.
But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, myself included to an extent, were kind of concerned with the Ravens whenever they basically got bailed out against the Detroit Lions. Like they had before the Lions lion the game away, they were ready to get beat by Detroit. And so to go in, even with Teddy Bridgewater to get hurt in this game, but even with Teddy getting hurt, the way the Ravens dominated this game and how good Lamar looked, I think this is another team that is making a step in the right direction and looks like a team that could really be making Jared look very smart with how
Yeah.
he projected them to perform this season.
I'll say one more thing too. They did the ultimate Madden thing at the end of that Denver game too. Did you guys?
They
see
sure
that?
did. Yeah. Denver's coaching staff was not happy about that one. But
No,
look,
they
if
weren't.
you,
But as a
Oh,
football fan,
wow.
I loved it. I personally loved it.
yeah,
Like,
if you don't want them to run on you, then stop the run.
Absolutely.
That's how I feel.
Gino Smith is the quarterback for Seattle right now.
Did Russ
Oh,
get
wow.
hurt?
He did.
Oh, it was on that.
Oh,
Aaron
wow.
Donald. Aaron Donald hit his hand on the
Yeah.
pass. He's
Yep.
on the sideline right now, gripping the ball.
That's big news right there.
Russ will come back in.
I think
He'll be
Russ
fine.
should be fine.
Yeah, he'll come back in.
But
So now we got that. That's the
yeah.
risers.
So yeah, so because of that too, we always like to go a little bit more long-winded about the positive stuff. So just real quick, we're going to run through the negative stuff, and then we're going to get into what our really fun stuff is going to be talking about, which is spiking the football. And he almost threw a pick. Spiking the football for our smash or pass from last week. So go ahead and hit on your faller and surprise, through week 4.
You want me to do them back to back real quick?
Yeah. I mean, let's just get, so we don't want to spend too much time on the negative stuff.
Right. Yeah. The positive is more fun to talk about. The faller for me, just real quick, is the New Orleans Saints. And a lot of this is based off how I felt after week 1. I watched them beat the Packers 38-3 after week 1, made Aaron Rodgers look possibly worse than he's ever looked. And I was like, okay, wow, I had the Saints missing the playoffs. I might have misstepped there. And then they proceeded to get the brakes beat off of them by Carolina 26-7. They did go into New England and get a win, but then now in week 4, they lost to what I perceive as a very bad New York Giants team. And the reality is they're going to win some games you probably don't think they're going to win, and they're going to lose some games you probably don't think they should lose. And I think that's just kind of part of the Jameis Winston experience. But it's not all on Jameis, because they're not really, the offense isn't really letting him do much anyway. They're really limiting what he can do. But I just don't think that the reason I have them as a faller is I thought that they were the clear-cut second best team in this division coming into the season behind the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I'm not so sure they're better than Carolina. I mean, Carolina's already beat the crap out of them once this year. So
they just got Stephon Gilmore.
Yeah. So I don't necessarily think they're the clear-cut second best team in the division anymore. So I've got the Saints as my faller for this week. And then my surprise team is a team that I'm actually watching play my favorite team right now. So speaking, that's the Seattle Seahawks. And that's mainly because of them going into San Francisco and beating the 49ers. I did not see, with the way the Seattle team was playing, I didn't see them going into San Francisco and winning that game, especially with how they're using Russ. I mean, they're hardly letting Russ throw the ball at all right now, and the defense is not good. So you're not letting one of the best quarterbacks in football throw the ball. Your defense is not good, and you're still somehow finding a way to win games. So that it's almost like a good and a bad surprise kind of thing.
Speaking of surprise, Gino Smith out here is slaying that thing, man.
Right. Yeah. He's about to revitalize his whole career and off of one drive. Yeah. But it's kind of like a good and a bad surprise. Of like they shouldn't be winning these games, but they are. And just, I don't know. I wish Russ could have forced his way out of Seattle, because he deserves better than what the coaching staff gives him.
Yes, definitely.
I mean, good for him for sticking around and all that, whatever, but selfishly, I want him out of the NFC West because he's so incredibly talented, and I'm tired of seeing him twice a year. And then also, I don't think Pete Carroll deserves somebody as good as Russell Wilson. I just don't. He does not deserve nice things for the way that he wants to coach football games. And so for them to even be where they are at 2-2,
they did get to play the Colts, so.
Man, they sure did look good that week. But for them to be 2-2, through 4 weeks was a surprise to me. I fully expected to be going into week 5 with them being 1-3. I did not expect them to win that game in San Francisco. So they were my riser. Hopefully I will have them as a faller next week, because hopefully the Rams can close this game out and and send Seattle at 2-3. But so through week 4, they were my surprise team for both good and bad reasons.
Yeah. So my faller is actually Tampa Bay. Just to keep it in that division, even though they did win,
it wasn't pretty.
It was not pretty, and all the shit y'all talked about Big Bill, Look,
Hey, I had the lowest point total of that game.
you did.
Between all three of us.
Brady going like bananas, and that did not happen. But I mean, Bill shut him down.
How many points did New England score?
Bill and
16 to 17.
I said they'd score 10.
Bill and Mother Nature. Bill and Mother Nature shut him down.
Yeah,
I don't think that game would have been as low scoring as it was.
Look, Tom Brady's played 20 years in Gillette Stadium.
Tom Brady plays in Florida now.
And it didn't rain for every single game for 20 years.
It snowed in the wind for 20 years.
I would rather, no joke, I would rather see snow than rain, I think, in terms of.
I would too. But regardless,
I was bummed as hell watching that game. Whenever I turned the game on and saw it piss pouring rain, I was like, man, this sucks.
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead.
Gino fucking Smith. Here we go.
He's slicing and dicing.
Fucking eating them, dude. Like, what the world are we doing?
What
are we doing here? This is Thursday night.
They won't let Russ cook, but they'll let Gino cook.
This is Thursday night. Like, this is ridiculous. This is the most Urban Meyer fucking thing ever.
He's my follower of the week.
He's my riser. His hand's my riser. He's rising right up that butthole.
His pants are rising. That's about it.
Oh, Urban Meyer.
Oh my God, you've got to be kidding me.
Did he just score a touchdown?
Gino just threw a bomb to DK for a touchdown.
Oh Lord.
What a throw.
What is happening right now?
He's
doing the ice. He's out here on the Rams defense doing ice in his veins and shit. Okay, you wanted to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Oh, okay. I'm glad we got this live. So Tampa Bay, it really has nothing to do with Brady. It's more to do with injury and the defense for them. Obviously, they're great stopping the run. They cannot stop the pass at all. They're down to, I think, their fourth string quarterback is starting right now, and they just signed Richard Sherman, who I don't really think looked that awful. I know the numbers aren't pretty for him, but I mean,
I'm pretty sure Mac Jones had a perfect passer rating when targeting Richard Sherman this week.
He looked better in the second half. He looked bad in the first half.
Yeah, but man, like
Jacoby Myers was repeatedly winning reps on him.
Yeah, 3 days of practice in a new system, and you're getting thrown out there. I mean,
he'll be better.
It's perfectly normal for you guys to give him.
Super impressive, but
perfectly normal for you guys to give him the benefit of the doubt. I won't. I hate Richard Sherman.
Yeah. But yeah, so Tampa Bay, I think until they get healthy, and even when they were healthy, that secondary still had some question marks there. So I'm curious to see how that goes. I no longer think they're Super Bowl favorites, which granted, I didn't have them in the Super Bowl. I had the Rams and the Bills. Both look really good. And my sleeper, which we already talked about, was the Arizona Cardinals. Like I said, we talked about, Arizona was
surprise.
The surprise. And that was just kind of where I ended on that. So we'll let Jared get to work here.
Yeah, my follower, I think it's because they kind of let me down really bad. To kind of counteract with my riser was my follower's Denver. I felt like Denver really had an opportunity to stamp that they were a legit team. Even if they wouldn't have beat Baltimore, if they would have been a lot more competitive in that game. They did lose Teddy Bridgewater. And Drew Lock is awful. I mean, absolutely awful. Yeah. He's as bad as he was last year, if not worse.
Everybody on the planet except for Drew Lock knows it too. But if you watch him out there, he lacks no confidence. There is no lack of confidence with him.
No, he's the most confident, terrible quarterback in the NFL.
That's what you want in a quarterback. So I mean, salute to him for that.
Irrational confidence.
Yeah.
But I at this point, I don't even know if he's a backup. Like, he looks terrible. Like, he has just no precision on his pass whatsoever. He didn't have any last year, and it looks like he's not really improved on that. The Broncos definitely they take a step back. I don't think they're washed. I don't count them out at this point. It's still early. And they played a good Baltimore team, like a really good a team I have winning AFC North. So, but I definitely think they take a step back in my rankings of teams on the grounds that they had their opportunity. That was really, I mean, they could have legitimately been like, we're here. We're a part of this AFC West as it's tough. And like, we're right there in the mix of it. And I definitely feel like they are right now, in my opinion, the worst team in that division. And they're still at 3-1. Like, they still have a winning record.
That's a tough division, man.
Yeah, I put the Raiders over the Broncos, and they lost as well on Monday night.
They'd
Those
probably
are
look
both
better
two
if they had
teams.
Gino Smith as quarterback.
Those two teams, I mean, the Broncos against the Ravens and the Raiders against the Chargers really had the chance to stake their claim of being a legit contender. And I mean, they still could be contenders, but they both failed to really make their mark this week in those big matchups. So
Yeah, I
I
think the
think your
Raiders
concerns are
especially,
warranted.
they fell behind really quick in that game, and they never got going. And as far as like I rank, I hate to be the guy, but a lot of times with teams like quarterback means the most to me. It's the most important position in football.
Sure. Yeah.
And I would take Derek Carr over any quarterback situation in Denver. So I think they're a step ahead of Denver because of that. Surprise team. It's kind of hard for me to pick a surprise team right now because I feel like there are some surprise teams. But I'm going to go off the grid, and it's not that they look great by any means, but I'm going to give them some love. The Jets. I'm going to take the Jets. They beat Tennessee.
Yeah, they did.
Look,
they sure did.
You deserve this airtime right now because before we hit record last week, you called the Jets winning this game, and me and Landon both were like, "No, there's no way. There's no way." And if
the
we
Jets
would
had to win this
hit,
game.
if we would have hit record, that would have been a clip that we would have had to like cut out of the episode and put on the internet, like because you would have made us famous by yourself for that call. So you deserve this airtime for this.
Yeah, I did think the Jets were going to win that game. There's obvious reasons. The Titans were banged up at wide receiver, but that's not the reason why I think the Jets win that game. The Titans are on defense are terrible. They might be the worst secondary I've ever seen. Like it's that bad. And Zach Wilson went out there and looked like Russell Wilson. Like he was out there flinging it. There was no one fears the Titans defense at all. Like there is nothing to fear. They have no pass rush. There's no secondary. There's no nothing. Landon and I are both Colts fans. It actually was kind of refreshing seeing it because that division's up for grabs, and the Colts have won one game, and they're right there.
That was a big drop. They had a chance to take a 2-game lead on a terrible Colts team. And that was like literally their only competition in the division because Houston's not competing, and Jacksonville is too worried about lap dances.
But I wanted to give the Jets some love. I do feel like they're a roster of misfits in some ways, but they're not a terrible team to watch. They're not completely like paint dry, boring.
Oh, they are fun. Zach Wilson's fun.
Zach Wilson's going to throw the ball a lot, and Corey Davis.
Elijah Moore's about to come back too, so they're just about to get more fun.
And they have no running game. They're definitely an air patrol team. So. And I've been on Corey Davis all year, and he submitted again that week. And
revenge narrative,
right?
Yeah, but I want to give the Jets some love, so they're my surprise, and it's a 1-week sample. It's nothing huge, but a win's a win.
Yeah, luckily Tennessee gets to play Jacksonville this week.
Hey, let me tell you, I'm not going to say Jacksonville's going to win that game, but let me make some points real quick on that. Urban Meyer is fighting for his job right now. And
he sure is.
He's fighting for something.
Look, man, that Tennessee defense is that bad. And Zach Wilson just beat him. Why can't another rookie beat him? I think Trevor Lawrence has the receiving core to do it. I think James Robinson's a good running back. They've got some talent in Jacksonville. I would not be shocked if they beat Tennessee this week. I'm not saying they're going
Jacksonville. We'll talk about Jacksonville a little bit more in the next episode too, in the wide receiver section. So
Jacksonville
discussion is not over.
Gino Smith had more fantasy points on that one drive than Trevor Lawrence had in week 2 and week 3.
So.
What a stat.
Wild, isn't it?
Speaking of fantasy points, though, now that we got our risers and fallers and surprise out of the way, it's time for us to spike the football because we had a good week 4. So let's go ahead and transition to that because that was a lot of fun. So I'll kick off the smasher pass because I covered the running backs this week, and so with me going first, whenever we're giving our picks, I'll go first with these picks here. So my running back smash was David Montgomery, who unfortunately did sustain an injury. but luckily he scored a couple of touchdowns before it happened. So he was able to finish, even with an injury, even leaving the game early. He was able to finish as running back 5.5 point scoring, 22.6 fantasy points. So, made you very happy coming off that terrible week against Cleveland, was able to bounce back against Detroit. Now, if you have Montgomery, you're going to be without him for the next several weeks. But he went out on a high note. And the running back pass was the weekly version of you do not run against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Damian Harris, who I believe had negative rushing yards for the week. He did.
-4.
Surprisingly enough, he did. I said that my concern was, he's not going to be involved in the passing game. And some people might think, well, James White is gone, so now Damian Harris is going to be involved in the passing game. And I didn't think that was going to be the case, but it actually, he led the team in routes run from the running back position.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Brandon Bolden had more targets and he was more productive with the routes that he did run. But Damian Harris was more involved than what I expected in the passing game with James White out. So that might be something to monitor. But nevertheless, running back 50 on a week, 3.6 fantasy points. And then my running back sleeper was Kenneth Gainwell, going up, running back for the Philadelphia Eagles, going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. And man, this one made me happy. One, because I was really happy. Like, I was really high on Gainwell in the pre-draft process for the NFL draft. So just to see him making an impact was fun. But then to call it before it happened, he finished as the running back 12. He was a running back 1.5 point scoring on the week, 17.9 fantasy points. So that, I was thrilled with how the running back position played out in week 4.
Yeah, man, you killed it.
Yeah, awesome. So kudos to Drew. Absolutely murked this week. So so I didn't necessarily kill it, but it wasn't that bad. Stefan Diggs was my wide receiver smash. He ended up finishing as right there on the fringe as a wide receiver 2. For whatever reason, the game script mostly, I thought for sure he would have had the Dawson Knox production.
That's all it was Dawson Knox got the touchdowns.
Dawson Knox got the touchdowns, but
if Diggs gets one of those touchdowns,
but even then, Josh Allen didn't even play in the fourth quarter. They ran the ball pretty much after.
Yeah, Diggs falls in, he's 20 points.
Yeah, and so it was more of a bad beat than it was a bad pick. The wide receiver pass was DeAndre Hopkins going up against Jalen Ramsey. As great as Arizona looked, the one guy that did not look that great fantasy wise was DeAndre Hopkins, finishing in at wide receiver 47, which, like we said, that's not where you drafted DeAndre Hopkins to be.
No.
And then wide receiver sleeper, it was just another bad beat with Teddy Bridgewater getting hurt with the concussion, because I think the first 2 drive he had like 2 or 3 targets on the first drive.
Pretty much all of his fantasy points, I think, came in those first couple of drives. Like, he was on pace to have a great game before Bridgewater got hurt.
Yeah, and then Bridgewater with the concussion, Drew Lock comes in, the offense, at that point just falls apart. But Tim Patrick, who still has not dropped a pass on any targets, he's another guy. I mean, I like him as a sleeper to continue doing his thing if Teddy Bridgewater plays. Outside of Teddy Bridgewater, I don't think you can start any Denver option. I'd even have a trouble with Cortland Sutton if Drew Lock plays. And we'll actually get into this on the next episode as well. So, Jared, I believe you had tight end, and another really good week for you as well.
Actually, and on going back to Landon for just a second too, on the next section, he was the biggest on our sleeper pick at the QB position. So Landon actually, he may not have hit completely on the smash, but he definitely nailed it on the sleeper and quarterback. We had a really good week, like a really freaking good week. Smash tight end of the week was Mike Gesicki. He ended up being tight end 7. Tight end is it's just not a sexy position. It's really not, and there's not a whole lot to get behind. But the target share was definitely there. I believe he did fall in the end zone. I believe he did score a touchdown, which is 2 weeks in a row. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on with Gesicki, especially with their quarterback situation being what it is. Tua may could be back this week though, and that could affect it a little bit. I don't think it's going to make a huge difference who's playing quarterback in Miami. I think it's very similar situation. The pass was the Cleveland Browns tight end core. 4.3 fantasy.
Just a note on that. I list, so whenever I typed this up, tight end 37 was Austin Hooper and David Njoku, one or the other. I can't remember which one finished higher. And then tight end 44 was the other. The only 2 I listed were Njoku and Austin Hooper, because I figured those were probably the only 2 that anybody was considering playing.
Yeah, I don't think they're playing.
And Harrison Bryant was the other. He's the third tight end there, and he is a very talented tight end. But he, if you want to include him in there, he only had like 0.8 points. So he doesn't. So these two tight ends combined, Austin Hooper and David Njoku, only just barely went north of 4 points. So that was to avoid the Cleveland Browns tight ends in general in a matchup that Minnesota Vikings defense had looked pretty vulnerable up to this point in the year. So for you to call out not just one player, but an entire tight end group and to hit like that was a great call.
The tight end there that gets the targets is Kareem Hunt.
Right.
Yeah, that was a messy game too. I think it was 14-7 was the
14-7. Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely a game for daily fantasy, especially I targeted that game on DraftKings and it failed on DraftKings miserably because of that game. Our sleeper did not quite hit. It is a sleeper.
Speaking of that game.
Yeah, speaking of that game, no one really went off in that game. Justin Jefferson was the only legitimate fantasy relevancy in that Minnesota Cleveland game. It was a bad fantasy game.
And that was like the first drive of the game where Jefferson got
literally
his
it was the first
after
drive.
that he was quiet too. I mean, that was their only score, was that one touchdown that Jefferson had. It was just a bad, like Kareem Hunt. He had a good fantasy game and nothing spectacular. There was no points in that game. It was just a bad game.
I mean, the reality of the tight end sleeper pick on a week to week basis is you're basically trying to identify tight ends that have a good chance of getting in the end zone.
Yes.
So that's what you're depending on.
I think
Conklin has as good of a chance as anyone, but
as anybody.
It didn't happen this week.
And I'll be honest with you, I'll go back to him this week.
Similar to my Tim Patrick thing. I mean, if Teddy Bridgewater plays, I'm on Tim Patrick as a sleeper.
Yeah. Yep. Conklin is definitely still a radar. He's still getting the targets. Like it's just a matter of getting in the end zone.
Yeah.
And that's all it takes. And
tight end is rough. And
it's a rough position. And
luckily I have it this week. So thank God.
You go with volume share, and that's all you can do, man.
So our quarterback smash.
Great week.
Our quarterback smash, a little bit, we both talked about, we thought Brady was going to come into New England, have a, resurgent game, and he's going to look really good. He did not look good at all. Like, obviously, like Drew said, it was raining, but also Bill Belichick.
Bill did a great job. I'm sure it was a mixture of.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was a mixture of the weather, but also, I mean, you play against the quarterback in practice and game plan for him for 20 years. I mean, his strengths.
If anybody's going to have an edge on that
guy. Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that one did.
And the touchdown that did get scored was a running touchdown too. So like it would have helped his day a little bit if he could have passed for a touchdown, but you could tell they were really trying to put an emphasis on the run with how the weather and everything was going too. So
I was gonna mention something earlier. We were Laney, you were talking about Tampa being a team dropping off. One thing they can take out of that game was how good Leonard Fournette looked. Like Fournette looked great.
They were able to run the ball.
He's getting a lot of carries and targets for that matter too.
Yeah, I'm curious to when Giovanni Bernard comes back, how he
might be back this week too.
Yeah, the passing game. Yeah, I mean, and we know Ronald Jones too is always lurking there for that one mistake. But on top of that, Lamar Jackson, who was our quarterback pass.
Oh, I'm sorry, I got a kiss. I was excited. Everyone got to see that online.
Yeah, you got a kiss. But
look,
mine just brought me some Sonic. So
it's a win.
Full disclosure too, quarterback pass was brought to the table by Jared last week whenever we were talking about who sweep, because we divide up running back, receiver, tight end amongst the three of us, and then quarterback we kind of do in more of a group think process. And Jared said, hey, let's do Lamar, and Landon and I were both kind of like, man, it makes us kind of nervous, passing on a guy like that with the rushing
upside
and everything like that. And then he came in on the week as quarterback 19, somebody that, in a one quarterback league, your standard 12 team league, you're clearly not happy starting the quarterback 19 on the week. So,
I was sweating that one.
Kudos to you. You made a great call on that one.
Lamar looked good.
Lamar, real life. I mean, Lamar looked really good.
I think it was a good real life game.
They did a good job on Lamar. And outside of that long touchdown, man, he's less than quarterback 19. at the end of that game. If that Hollywood Brown touchdown kind of saved quarterback 19, you're looking at a 17-point day out of Lamar Jackson without that touchdown.
Yeah.
And now to
And
get
then-
into our quarterback sleeper.
I'll let you
My
go ahead and spike
boy.
this one, Landon, because you
That's
Yeah,
you,
I
bro.
I was on Taylor Heineke pretty hard this week. I thought this was going to be the Terry McLaurin game. Surprise, it was the Terry McLaurin game. Dude just looked fantastic. And I mean, Taylor Heineke, say what you will about, some of the performance, but that guy loves to throw the ball, and he is very mobile. He can escape. He can get you some of those rushing yards. But I mean, I think he's a great option. Even if Fitzpatrick's healthy, I think he's won that job, and I think he's won the opportunity to continue on there. I know their defense, if their defense ended up hitting a little bit more than like they were expected to, this could be a very dangerous team with Taylor Heineke at cornerback.
Yeah, he'll be a less viable fantasy option because he won't have to do as much if the defense starts to pick up on their end.
Yeah.
But like, yeah,
Or they're able to get him the ball back a little bit more too. I mean,
well, yeah, I don't ever mind my quarterbacks having to play catch up, especially a guy like Heineke, who Heineke is not your typical backup that plays conservative football. Like Heineke he's very Drew Lock-ish, except he has more talent than Drew. He has the Drew Lock confidence, but he's better than Drew Lock, and he's got the weapons to support that too.
So the numbers on Heineke, because I haven't really looked at it until just now. 23 at 33. They did play Atlanta, but that kind of goes back to what we were talking about with Washington.
That was the whole reason Landon, not the whole.
Yeah.
That was one of the reasons Landon was on him as a sleeper, was the matchup, and then the fact he got Curtis Samuel back. And
neither one of those defenses play very well at all right now. Heineke 23 at 33, 290, 3 touchdowns and 40 yards rushing.
It definitely that JD McKissick dump off touchdown to win the game against Atlanta definitely didn't hurt his fantasy day by any means.
Sure.
That helped put him over the edge.
One of the things that pisses me off even more about that offense is the fact that JD McKissick has more goal line rushes than Antonio Gibson does. Not goal line targets.
Oh, correct.
Goal line rushes.
That makes no sense.
Stupid.
Yeah.
So stupid.
No sense whatsoever.
Whatever.
I told you that was
but regardless though, you on the pass and on the sleeper, you guys both hit home runs on those picks. So that was you guys made this show look very good on those picks. So
yeah, and if you would have told somebody in their league to bench Lamar Jackson for Taylor Heineke, they would have
looked at you like you were crazy.
Drew, pat yourself on the back too, man. Kenneth Gainwell, that's a huge call.
And Montgomery sleeper. And Damian Harris. I mean, like
this guy's
all three of them.
Kenneth Gainwell's the backup running back, and you called him, man. 17.9. That's fantastic. It was a great week.
We had a good week on this show for Smash or Pass. So, and then the last thing we need to get into before we wrap this episode up is
DFS.
Jared, you rolled out one. Yeah, you rolled out one DFS lineup this past week for everybody. So
we had a good week in that too. It could have been a little bit better.
Yeah, you listened. I mean, you won some money too. Yeah, we won some money.
Yeah, definitely nailed some things. Mahomes and that Mahomes Tyreek Hill stack. It got the Lord, for sure. Patrick Mahomes threw for 5 touchdowns, almost 300 yards. Tyreek Hill had 3 touchdowns and 180. I had to double check 186 yards receiving. That's stupid.
Yeah, that's a real stat line. Yeah.
Gibson got in the end zone, so we hit on that. Miles Gaskin destroyed our lineup, gentlemen. He had 0.3 fantasy points.
Yeah, so he's the one guy.
Say what you want about the Colts defense, but one thing they do really well is they stop the run.
Miami does not do very well is run the ball. So that was
it
was a perfect matchup.
Yeah.
Miles Gaskin also had 2 carries. So he is someone, if you guys are looking at daily fantasy redraft,
don't play Miles Gaskin.
Yeah,
or any Dolphins running back for that matter.
No, it's a bad situation in Miami right now.
Malcolm Brown got the majority of that work in that game.
And he didn't look good either.
We had Devonta Smith. He had a great game. 107 receptions for 122. If he would have hit the end zone, I mean, that's a monster game at that point. We did not hit necessarily on Tim Patrick or Travis Kelce. That was a weird Travis Kelce no-show game.
For Mahomes to have that big of a game and Kelsey to have that big of a stinker is just
he threw
unheard
5
of.
touchdowns, and Kelsey had 23 yards receiving on 4 receptions.
Mahomes never has a big game like that without Kelsey being involved.
No.
Like, that just doesn't happen. So that was the bad beat of bad beats for that.
The other reason why double stacking is so important in daily fantasy sports, though, because what did we do? We double stacked Kelsey and Tyreek Hill, which Tyreek Hill more than made up for Travis Kelsey's 4.3
Yeah,
points.
exactly.
Right.
So, I mean,
So
you're
that's the reason why double stacking and bringing it back is so important. That Devonta Smith bringing it back with 15 fantasy points on a very cheap salary and a low ownership. We had a really good week, and we had Calvin Ridley in the flex, who is officially ruled out for this week too. Do you guys know that?
Personal
He has personal reasons. The reasons being, as our friend Nate put it, is he does not want to go to London. That's the reason.
But Calvin Ridley had a very mediocre game for a salary at his price range and a player of his quality. I really definitely had a lot of retrospects. We probably should have had more emphasis on that Washington Atlanta game. As much as we hyped it to be what it turned out to be, we probably should have had more exposure to it than what we did. But Calvin Ridley was the biggest name, I thought, in that game outside of him or McLaurin, which McLaurin had the game and Ridley didn't. Ooh. But if I have a choice between Calvin Ridley or Terry McLaurin, I'd take Calvin Ridley in that situation. And then on the defense, we picked.
I don't know.
Maybe not right now.
Maybe not right now. I don't know.
But
I had that choice today to make because the guy that I made a trade today in our dynasty, and I was picking between. I had McLaurin. Oh, who were the options? It was McLaurin, Calvin Ridley, and I can't remember who else. Jamar Chase was the other option, and I took McLaurin.
I probably would have taken Jamar Chase. It would have been me in a dynasty league, but
I would have had to give up a little more than what I wanted to get Jamar.
Oh, okay.
But before the season started, I was huge on Terry McLaurin, and then
I think
Patrick goes out in the first quarter, the first game.
He's done
it with so many quarterbacks.
But he had a quarterback this year. I thought that was going to make him even more.
Yeah, I thought for sure, and I think Taylor Heineke might be.
And Heineke's been that. He's
targets that dude a lot.
Yeah, and Logan Thomas has not been the guy. I find
Logan Thomas is hurt.
Yeah,
for the foreseeable future, which means McLaurin's just going to get even more targets.
But to finish up on
Ricky Seals-Jones isn't a bad.
Miami Brown is hurt as well.
No.
But bring the DFS home.
Yeah, I'm wrapping it up right here. So our bare bones dart throw of a defensive pick was the Jets, and they gave up 24 points, but they had 7 sacks. The Jets had 7 sacks as a team, and they got 7 points. And if you get 7 points out of
7 points out of as cheap as they were,
they outscored Travis Kelsey this week.
What a call, man!
Defense. Yeah.
What a call.
So it was a good week. We cashed. I mean, that's a very important thing. Obviously, you want to win. Nobody likes losing. It's no fun when you lose, but it's extremely hard. And the way, as anything else, like we're shooting a podcast and we feel like we're at least educated on fantasy sports. There's a lot of smart people in the world, and anytime you can cash on FanDuel or DraftKings or Yahoo or any of these formats, then you pat yourself on your back and you go on to the next week with a dub.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Good job.
It was week 4 is really, it was the first week where we said this during the week 4 preview. Whenever we were getting into this, we're like, this is really the week where normally you can start to kind of identify trends. Like, hey, this team is bad against defending this position. This team is good against defending this position. You need to avoid this team in this situation, yada, yada, yada. And we use that methodology to come to some of the conclusions we came to with some of these picks. And a lot of that stuff came to fruition. So, it was nice to see the process pay off in that scenario. So, that was a lot of fun. It was good to see some good calls come through in week 4. So we've had a couple rough weeks to start the year. We've had some good calls, some bad calls, but this was the first
we've
overall.
had a lot of bad injury luck too.
Yeah.
Extremely.
So yeah, it's just been nice to actually win some money this week. It was fun, and you're able to sit there and watch, and then if you've followed along with the calls, especially Andrew and the quarterbacks and Jared's tight ends, and
yeah, we
not so much my wide receivers, but
we do a main slate for everybody. I want to pat myself on the back for a second. I played in the Sunday night slate, and I did not have Tom Brady in the MVP position. I had a pretty good night, gentlemen.
That was a good night to fade Brady.
I did. I had the players I felt like were production players. Jacoby Myers had him. Yeah. Myers was out there throwing the ball.
That was another guy we talked about on the podcast that he had the whenever we were talking about Stefan Diggs as Landon's smash pick, and one of the reasons being was the air yards that were being left out on the field. Diggs was number one in that, right? And Jacoby Myers was right there behind him, and he was due. And the Tampa Bay secondary is beatable. And that was another, it wasn't like a pick that was put on paper or anything, but it was something that we talked about too on this podcast. So
Jacoby Myers also now, like, I think he already had it, but this even further solidified it. He now has the most catches in NFL history without a touchdown. He's
going to get in the end zone.
He has never scored a touchdown
in his career.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
Which will change eventually.
Yeah,
he damn near threw one Sunday night.
Yeah, Mac Jones will eventually hit him, probably maybe even as early as this week.
Jacoby's done way too good of a job of getting open that it's going to break his way eventually.
The two things I nailed on that Sunday night game, I was all over. I think I set like 4 lineups and all 4 of them cashed. But I was high on Leonard Fournette, man. Like, I had him in all 4 lineups. I had him in the MVP spot in one of them. But I just felt like as soon as I knew the weather conditions, I'm like, this is going to be a weird game. And I had Brady in every lineup as well, but I'd never put him in the MVP spot. And it saved my ass by doing that too, because it would have been a bad beat for sure on that one, bad night. But it was a good week. It was a very good week.
Week 4 was definitely a good week.
Yeah, it was a good week. So hopefully week 5 is more of the same, and we will be coming to you with our week 5 smash or pass, as well as DFS lineup here shortly. So just get ready for that. It's going to be released on Saturday. You can go ahead and get ready for that, right before the Sunday games start. So we'll let Andrew do the closing, and we will, put a curtain on week 4.
Yeah. So as always, first and foremost, thank you for hanging out with us, for listening along. If you've made it this far, we finally got to show you guys, where the expert part comes into our Amateur Experts podcast title. We definitely had a good week 4. If you listened along, if you took the advice, you were able to make some smart start and sit decisions. You were able to make some money in DFS. And so, hopefully you enjoyed the ride with us. Anywhere you can find a podcast, we're there. So Google, Spotify, Apple, wherever, follow, subscribe, whatever that platform wants you to do. And then if you want the visuals to go with the audio, head over to YouTube. We've got a YouTube channel as well, where we talk this stuff out on video with some backdrops and stuff like that to back up what we're talking about. If you venture over to YouTube, make sure that you like this video and drop down in the comments and let us know, where you agree, where you disagree, who your home run picks were for week 4 and how you see week 5 playing out, because we're gonna get into that here shortly. And then, while you're there on the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Whenever you click subscribe, make sure you click that little bell that pops up so that you can be notified of the uploads whenever they're put up. We're only 2 podcasts a week, so we're not blowing up your phone notifications, but you'll be ahead of the curve. You'll know whenever they go live, and then you can be the first to make those changes, to pick the guys up, to drop the guys, to update your DFS lineups, all that good stuff, so that you can hopefully win some money, hopefully make some smart start sit decisions, get you a couple of W's during the week for your redraft and dynasty leagues as well. So but of course, as always, thank you, and thank you.
Yes, and we will see you guys here shortly, like I said, with our quarterback, or not our quarterback, but our week 5 smash and pass. And while we're here, actually, it looks like the Rams are going to win this game. And, Drew, a little bit celebrating as we end the video here.
Yeah, I'm sitting here hoping to watch the Rams go to 4-1, man. It was I had a good week 4 in terms of my calls for the week, but during week 4 I had to watch the Rams get their ass kicked by the
Robert
Cardinals. I had to
Yeah,
watch
Robert fucking Woods.
Hey, what did I tell you guys this afternoon? If I wish I
Called
could have
it.
put that on video. Um, but yeah, I had to watch the Rams get their ass kicked in week 4. My personal fantasy team did not have a good week in week 4. So pretty much all I had going for me week 4 were the calls that I made on this podcast. So it's nice to see week 5 getting off to a good start early, and then hopefully I'll be able to follow it up with some more good calls with our smash and pass that we'll be getting into here very shortly. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, sir. So thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you on the next episode.